which just happened last week.
Yay.
I thought it was a weekend.
Okay, I just want to make sure it doesn't just stop for some reason.
You know, it's kind
We're
of
good, but I think last time it was saying there's some setting where if you don't do anything for a while, it'll end it. So I just want to make sure it don't do that.
Do you know what that is?
No. Maybe if we just go to.
You're still using Zoom, right? You're still using Zoom?
Because I had to catch up. Because I was like so far behind.
We just don't want it to go off. Like last time, after like a few minutes, it just like stopped broadcasting. So just trying to make sure.
What do you need?
No,
We're all good. We're
infinite wisdom.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I really love it. There we go.
music from the call. Okay, here we go. All right. After a few minutes of notice. No. All right, we should be good then.
Perfect.
We're doing amazing job.
All right. Is Lek in the meet? Does he need to be accepted?
We should probably send this to him. Let me see.
She did.
She did?
Lori already shared out.
Do you have his number? You could do, it's just this part right here. IZR-COCC-QVE.
Yeah, she did that already.
Okay.
So she said, please use the link. But he hasn't joined yet? Is that what it is?
No. I don't see anybody here.
Okay.
Oh, I can send this to him.
What did you call them? Okay, we'll see if something comes in. They usually do something, but like this would like this up here.
It says nobody else is on that.
It won't be an issue. Hey, Ashley. Hi, how are you? Did anyone respond to Keith about the, but the email, the thing through about the not being aware of the LSC?
No, that's
Oh,
public
yeah.
participation.
I mean, I don't think it will.
Yeah, public incoming students.
Didn't
Know
know
about
about
elections.
the election. Okay. The district's put a lot of communication.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear. It's like back
Buses and all the materials. Yeah. It's definitely on the radio. Yeah, it's really pumping.
in the summer.
Is it on the calendar, right?
It's on our
Alyssa the district's setting up. It is official things.
All right.
I did on my door.
Yeah.
Did Lake join yet? Is he on?
It looks like it's all good.
No, is Lake on?
Oh,
I guess it's okay. Okay, so go on.
Yeah, he's going to keep it. I spoke to his son reporter because about the Bryn stuff.
it's just us.
Yeah. All right. All right. I think we can get started. Welcome everyone to our Peirce Local School Council regular meeting. Matthew Kwame. We'll go over, we'll do a roll call in just a minute. I'd like to welcome our guests, near and far. Before we get going, so we have norms and all of that, but I think what I like to do is offer a moment of silence for, our terrible loss that we experienced a few weeks back. I think that we were all touched, and we've come together. But I'd like us to, not 11 minutes, but at least a few seconds of silence in memory of Jaden. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. As we move through the agenda here, I'd like to start with the norms. Throughout our meeting, we'll work to be an active, engaged, contributing participant by sharing perspective and actively listening to others. We'll be flexible and respectful of others' times and decisions, and we'll be open to other people's truths and perspectives. To be reminded of differences in cultural and social backgrounds. We'll be transparent about concerns, challenges, and misunderstandings. We'll be reflective, collaborative, and supportive. We'll always take the work back to student achievement. What can we do to make things better for our students, both academically and social-emotionally? We respect student, staff, and LSC member confidentiality unless there's a threat to safety. Meetings should be paused if LSC members or meeting participants experience harm due to their identity, including but not limited to gender, sexual orientation, race, etc. The harm should be named. We understand that not everything has a right answer, and we trust that the process is ongoing.
Thanks.
All right. So we'll go ahead and do a roll call. So Matthew Kwame, parent rep.
Lori Zamey, principal.
Felico, teacher rep. Lindsay Moon, parent rep.
Byron Adams, community rep.
Keith Bjorklund, parent rep.
Kathleen Hayes, parent rep.
Nicole Granicki, parent rep.
Do it.
We can hear you loud and clear. You're good. So Raki is not going to be able to make it today, and so it looks like I didn't get in. I hope he's okay. I didn't hear anything.
He's out right now.
Okay.
Is someone filling in with notes?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Lindsay, for helping us with that. The first item on the agenda here is the approval of the order of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the order of the agenda?
Second.
Any discussion? All right. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Next item, items needing council approval. The first one is to allow LSC members to join the meeting remotely. I think Lake is the only one for today's session. So I'd like to make a motion to allow LSC members to join the session remotely.
Second.
Actually, I don't know if you can second
I
that. You good? All in favor? Thank you. The next item is approval of the minutes from the February 15th regular meeting minutes. approval of the minutes from the February 15th regular meeting. So thanks to Raki for sharing those a few weeks back. I don't know if anybody has any questions or discussion. Okay. All in favor?
I'm just abstaining because I wasn't at the
That's
meeting.
fine.
Did we get a second on that motion, just to be technical? I don't think anybody seconded.
I'll
the
second,
motion.
I'll second.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Kathleen. The next item is approval of the FOP, well, the gala, the fundraiser on 8/31st. So it was initially scheduled for April 19th. We need to have some paperwork, but I think we have time until the next meeting, so I don't think we need to, I think that's totally fine, right? So we'll push that to the next, to our next meeting, and between now and then we'll get the necessary documentation. Next item on the agenda is certification of the LSC election results that were held yesterday.
Yes, so this will be shared in the SMORE newsletter this week, and have already been submitted to the district, but the final votes have to be certified by the LSC in an open forum vote, just to confirm that there's no ties that need to be broken. And the total vote count for parent representatives are Nicole Granicki, 46, Sonia Brown, 38, Eric Oakson, 29, Rocky Dodia, 44, Matthew Kwame, 43. For the community representatives, Lamont Lynn, 17, Lake Dang, 32, non-teaching staff, Adolfo Ramirez, 6, teacher representatives, Anna Choliko, 2, Bridget Fabianski, 48, Megan Tolka, 49, Lisa Roman, 4, and for the student representative, the election was held today, Miller Picunis, 240, Adrian Kabashi, 517. So I will make a motion to, for the LSC to certify the results of the LSC election.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations to our newly elected and continuing members. All right. Next on the agenda, so we can skip. I think Omalar is not here, so that's fine. I had put in a note here from our prior meeting to have. I don't think Antoinette was able to make it. Do we know do you have any more details about this?
All she said, so Antoinette Turner is part of the safety and security team who helps fill the vacancies for crossing guards. And she wanted to meet with the community. We've shared information like in the past in prior newsletters that there's a current vacancy at the intersection of Bryn Mawr and Broadway for a crossing guard, and just wondering if there was family members in the community that might be interested, that they can then apply for the position with Antoinette. So she was gonna send like flyers out. It's been a little while since we've communicated that vacancy. She was gonna get us flyers. I'll ask her if she has something electronic to pass out, but please also, if you know of anyone that might be interested, I believe they're part-time positions with benefits. So the nice thing is that people get insurance by having that part-time job.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, principals report.
Okay, I apologize for the delay in sending documents to the LSC. I had sent the March report prior to the meeting that we had canceled and didn't have a chance to take any questions from LSC members, and then I shared late last night today's principals report. I actually was not going to go into a lot of detail on my report because I wanted to do a quick budget preview with the council, but if there are things in the report that you would like to have like questions answered to, I'm happy to answer those questions. But the reason that I wanted to do a budget preview is just because in 2 weeks we'll be meeting again to vote, and there will be like changes to our programming that I want to get information out to people in advance and start surveying the community so that we can make an informed decision when it comes time for us to get there. I had also shared the preview deck with members. My goal is to do a recorded presentation, which will also highlight this same information and email it out to staff and to community and to the students to get input on it. But basically, I guess, one, are we okay with me doing that? Yeah, okay.
Just a quick, I do have a question, but I think it also could fit under the new business, one of those items. So
Okay,
just
okay.
checking if that's.
Okay.
Do we come back to this at the next meeting, or I just haven't had a chance to review?
We can, I mean, I'm always happy to like answer questions, even at this meeting or next meeting.
Okay.
I realize that I did send it late. It's not my highest quality piece of work, and I've likely missed some things that I probably would have wanted to include had I been able to do a better job at it. So the budget preview is that this year, the district is facing a $391 million deficit because of the end of the funds that were provided to the district from the days of COVID. And that there's no significant additional revenue coming to the district from any other outside agency. And so the district wants to preserve strategies that they put in place that are focused on the instructional core, and trying to maintain, they said that despite the district's deficits, that they're maintaining the overall citywide level of funding in school budgets. It's just looking different by school, but like overall, their commitment to schools remains the same. It's just the equity-based approach has shifted where dollars are allocated. And so in years past, the district was using a student-based budgeting formula where we received dollars based on enrollment. And the district is now shifting towards the equity-based funding model for school year 25. And the district is, can someone maybe try and like hide or like turn off the notifications?
Oh, please.
Yeah, I think that's what's making that. It's like different things are happening. And the district is working on creating a transparent approach to school communities so that people understand why funds are coming to schools and that there's a more public approach to sharing that information. There is still a commitment to high quality education for every student in every school. I had shared sort of our total enrollment for English language learners at the 20th day was 172. The district is basing our formulas based on 20th day enrollment. So numbers have shifted over the course of the year, but overall, they're not too far off compared to where we were at 20th day. Our overall kindergarten through 8th grade enrollment at 20th day was 958, and our pre-K enrollment at that time was 153, which put us at 1,111 students. I think we had 1,114 students when I had checked last. And what we've received now is an opportunity index score, which is a scaled score based on a variety of factors. And our opportunity index score is a 20. I'm not sure how high that goes and how low it goes, but our number is a 20. So the opportunity index has various factors, as I mentioned. Each of them are weighted equally in the formula. And the indicator score becomes a sum of all of the indicators. And what I was told is that all schools in the district are placed in order from lowest to highest and then separated into quintiles. And then there's some way of determining like that percentile score and then what that like numeric score is going to be behind it. So there's some community indicators that are part of the opportunity index, which include a mean hardship index. And because we are located in this area, our raw data is at a 35.4. I don't know what that is in terms of relative terms, so what a high number would be or a low number, but I know that we're at 35.4, and it gives us the lowest number, which is a 1. We are not part of the Southwest investment plan in the city, and so we are at the lowest range for that. Which is also at a 1. The mean life expectancy in this community is 78.7 years. which also put us at a 1 as so like we're at the lowest range on those 3 community factors because of our position in the community. Then it looks at school-specific numbers, and then again, ranked across the city of Chicago. And so our SPED at 20th day was at 14.6%, which gave us a score of 3. So, there's there's the 5 possible points we could get. We got the mid-tier for special ed. Free and reduced meals was at 31.7%, which gave us a score of 1. The limited English proficiency was at 17.1%, which gave us a score of 3. Percent STLS was 0. That put us in the first quintile with 1 point. Percent of students that are eligible for Medicaid but not enrolled was 4.6%, which was a 1. Percent of teacher retention was 84.2%, which put us at a 3. Majority race is 46%. That put us at a 2 because of our numbers. We've got a large white population, but then we also have a large Hispanic population, and then like smaller numbers of other demographic groups. So we were at a 2 for that one. And so then our overall, when you add up all of those indicators, that's what gave us the score of a 20. And then I had just put like a slide in here that shows what 20th day numbers look like compared to what our current numbers look like. And they're slightly different, but not significantly far off. So even if we looked at end of year data, it wouldn't significantly shift the opportunity index. And so then the district because there is no longer this student-based budgeting formula, they are allocating core instructional positions, foundational positions, and then giving us a chunk of money that we can then decide how we are going to allocate dollars for. So part of their new process is to allocate, we've always received 1 principal, 1 clerk, and 1 counselor. Those have always been the foundational positions, but they're now shifting that to where now all schools get 1 principal, 1 assistant principal, but then in our case, a second assistant principal because of our pre-K expansion in multiple buildings. And then we received 2 clerks, 1 foundation and 1 for multiple buildings. We received 2 counselors based on their formula. That's what our allocation is. Then we received 37 classroom teachers, which are for the general homeroom. So that is based on 1 teacher for every 26 students. And that is because our opportunity index is less than or equal to 30. Once you're at 30 to, I can't remember what the next number was. It was, I think, 1 teacher for every 24 students. And then the highest one was 1 teacher for every 22 students. So we're receiving 1 teacher for every 26 students. And then holistic teachers are like our specialist classes. They will allocate 1 holistic teacher for every 5 classroom teachers. So we get 8. And then we will receive 1 school assistant. Our pre-K numbers for allocations are the same with the 7 teachers, 3 special ed teachers, 7 classroom assistants. They've currently got us allocated to lose 1 special ed teacher and 4 special ed classroom assistants, which I know we will need and I will have to appeal. They are not accepting appeals until early to middle of May. And I think that they're really trying to focus on the core instructional positions and working through any issues that might be existing. And then to make sure that like the special ed component is addressed secondarily. And then they are still allocating 1 case manager. We have not qualified for a second case manager, and still 1 English language proficiency teacher. Last year, they allocated 2 positions for intervention. We're no longer receiving those 2 positions for intervention. And then the LSC had opened up like several school assistant positions. For this year, we had hired, opened up the bilingual school assistants. We had allocated some in last year's budget, and those we only get the 1. And then the thing that is a little bit different for us this year is now that so they've got the foundational APs, but now schools with specialized programs must have a teacher in the role of PYP and MYP coordinator. And in the past, we've had Mr. Lee functioning as assistant principal and MYP coordinator. I've been going back and forth trying to have that model continue. But they are telling me that right now we have to have an MYP coordinator and a PYP coordinator. I would like to use that additional teaching position for intervention and not for IB, considering we have the IB taken care of. So that's something that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. But that's what the allocation is saying right now. And then we would still get about 17,000 for extended day work for things like ILT, MTSS team, behavioral health team. We would still receive the $98,000 to support pre-K teacher preparation periods. And then I have not heard, they haven't allocated next year's after school or summer programs yet. And then there's a formula for additional dollars, which become your flexible funding dollars. So that for us is $365 per student, and then $12 for every student, for every number above the opportunity index of 14. So in our case, that amounts to an additional 6 times $12, which is an additional $72 for a total of $437 per student, which brings us to $418,646 that we can decide how we want to allocate. So that's essentially what becomes like a key of the decision making, is where aren't we receiving positions and where do we want to use those flexible dollars to purchase positions. So some things to consider are, as we are looking at positions that we have this year that we would not have next year, is that our current 5th grade class is still very small, and there is opportunity to decrease from 4 classrooms to 3, and then the classroom enrollment would be about 31 per classroom, and then the other classrooms, other grade levels would maintain 4, with enrollment between 26 and 29 students per classroom. And so where we see decisions that need to be made are that if we look at all homerooms needing to be taken care of with the cutting of a 6th grade class temporarily, that would leave us with 2 positions that we could determine where we want to allocate, like what are the positions that we want, those 2 teaching positions that we have left from the 45 positions that we receive. And then what do we want to do with the 418,000? So I took out, like, I know we need money for lunch and recess coaches. I know we need money for extended day pay, substitutes, and printing. So really that puts us at about 253,000 that we can work with in the 2 teaching positions. And so some things that we have to consider are, do we use that money to purchase a case manager, to make it a 2nd case manager, because right now it would be allocated with just 1. Do we purchase, we've had 9 specials teachers. Do we hire, like, keep a 9th specials teacher or not? We've had 2 interventionists, so that would be a total of 4 so far. Do we keep a position for a restorative practices coach in there, because that's not in the budget? And then we basically, do we keep any of the 6 school assistants that we've had? And then do we want to decrease class size in next year's 6th grade and open up another 6th grade classroom? So that's basically where our decisions will lie as a council, on what models do we feel are going to be best for our school next year, while also keeping in mind our school improvement priority areas. And so that's where seeking feedback from the community, the staff, and students is going to be really important as we make a really big decision. That was a high-level overview without a visual aid to accompany. So I apologize.
Right, so if we can get, I know you're presenting that now, we're gonna have a meeting on the 25th. It would be nice, I think, to have current state, worst case, proposed state, and then trying to figure out how we tie the 2 and get somewhere. Do you have any preliminary thoughts on what the best or the most appropriate course of action is?
I think this is truly where getting input from the community is going to be very important.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't even, things have been like a little busy lately, so I haven't even had a chance to put together like some potential models. But what I would like to do is put like 3 or 4 different models of things that I think, based on our school improvement plan, how I see the school operating, how that could best, work, and then see what input families have. I want to try and do that by early next week, because then I might need to send a second survey. I want to see what that initial data looks like before doing a secondary approach.
Thank you, Principal Amy. That was a lot, and appreciate it. And I know we'll get through it. We've been dealing with budget cuts now, year after year. I have a few questions. I was wondering if anything has changed with the case manager workload with this new budget. Like what?
It's still really high, but part of it is that one of our case managers has had to take leave of absence at different points this year, which I am so thankful that we had a second one this year. I don't know what we would have done had we not. But the caseload is really high, and I'm hoping that there might be like some negotiations with CTU and CPS. I know this is one of the negotiating points. I'm hoping that there will be something that if we were to choose to open a second case manager, that we may receive part or more of a position partway through the year. Just because we are like this close, like truly to like reaching what the current formula would push to require a half position. And I'm gonna put in another appeal, just because our numbers right now, like if we end at end of the year with where we're predicting we will be at like the exact number that we would need for a halftime.
So you'll put the appeal in for the case manager too.
Yeah.
And so you're doing that for the SPED teachers, the SPED classroom assistants, the case manager, and then what about for the intervention?
That we
Positions you
won't,
can't?
no, we can't appeal
Okay.
for that.
Is there any other appeal opportunities with the allocations?
I've been trying.
Thank you.
Are there any other impacts, like you summarized? I think in the deck, it looks like, aside from staff, there are a few other things that you're going to pinpoint for the flexible funding, but are there any other areas that you think will be impacted by the budget that aren't staff or the need to include section?
No, this is basically what would be impact based on current year's organizational chart. And we have money in internal, so the thing that I have not allocated in this budget is things for purchasing things. Because we have internal accounts with student fees that are used to purchase things. So I feel like we will be okay in that regard.
What other sources of funding would be available? I'm sorry, I don't think you finished your questions either.
Oh,
We're just gonna
go
like jump in.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll stop. Go ahead, sorry.
I was wondering, Principal Zane, if you could talk about what happens if we did reduce 5th grade down from 4 classrooms to 3? What does that mean then for that class moving to 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and teachers, and kind of what that shuffle would look like and the impact of that?
So in 6th grade, 7th and 8th grade, there's 4 core teachers that teach one, like that same content area for 4 periods, and then there's a learning community block. And so what this would mean is that those students' schedules would be changed so that they would have 3 teachers teaching 3 instructional cores, and then all teachers would likely need to teach 1. So sometimes that would be like all teachers teach social studies to their homeroom, and then they still teach like 1 hour of each of like the math, science, reading. Some schools do it that all teachers teach reading, and then there's the math, science, social studies rotation. So we would have to figure out what schedule would look like. So I guess the student schedule would be the biggest change of rotating to 3 teachers versus 4. And then what's that content area that could become a shared content area? We've also, in years past, done a rotation where science and social studies were combined, and then there was a language arts and a math teacher. That with like that doesn't necessarily work as cleanly with the 60-minute requirement or recommendation for each of the 4 content areas. So it would be like better from a recommended number of minutes to do all teachers teach 1 content area and then 3 rotations. But that's where I would, if we're moving in that direction, that's where I want to really sit with the team and figure out what impacts would this have and how might we need to seek feedback or like get feedback from them on what we would need to consider.
I used to piggyback on that one, just real quick. What's the largest class size at Peirce right now? Because you mentioned those classes would go up to about 30.
29, 30. In middle school, some classrooms are a little bit bigger because of the way that our schedules work. Some have maybe even 31, but some of them, it's not the same group of kids all day long. So like CTU is that we should be below 32 in 6th through 8th grade. So 31 would put us within the agreed upon range with CTU and CPS.
And what's the impact on the teachers if we did something like this, like with 5th grade? Does that mean there's a teacher, 1 or more teachers that are moved out of their grade to a different grade and then moved back?
I'm not well, yes, there would be somebody that we need to move, but I've also got shifts in staff happening. I don't anticipate losing teachers as a result of budget this year, just because of retirements and resignations. And also like I have to put together my organizational chart based on information I've received from staff on who's coming and who's not and what their grade level preferences are. So yeah, I would need to, there's like some factors that go in, but the team would not have 4 general ed teachers, but it does not mean that a teacher would lose their position.
And then did you mention like opening a 6th grade?
So in like my proposal, it was that we would have 3, in making sure, so not in my proposal because I've not proposed anything, but in like covering like what we need at bare minimum, we need to have 3 6th grade classrooms. If the council and staff and students felt very strongly that we don't want those 3 classrooms, we want 4, then that would be a decision that the council would vote on, like opening that 4th room versus the bare minimum of 3.
Okay, so we're talking about the same group of students?
Yes.
Okay. I see.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Current 5th going into 6th.
Got you. Okay. And then with the 26 kid to teacher ratio, when do you add a teacher or remove a teacher with that?
It's when they take our total K-8 enrollment, which was 958, divide that by 26.
Oh.
And that gave us, I think it was like 36 point something, so they rounded up to 37. Whenever there's a partial, so it's like for every 26 students then we have in the school, we get 1 more teacher.
Okay.
And how that position is allocated would vary.
Okay, thanks.
So it's kind of on the same track. So when we vote on the budget, and let's just say like enrollment numbers drastically change, and we maybe voted for 3 teachers versus 4, is there any flexibility with that?
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably not anticipating that we'd have more.
Yeah.
Like,
but you never know.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's a valid question, which is why the last couple of years we've kept it at 4, because there's been like, let's try to take students from the lottery, and we do, but then there's attrition. And so then it's been just like a net sum. And so, but there is a possibility that there will be, people in the neighborhood that have not been here that are wanting to enroll, or we have people relocating from around the world constantly and coming in. That is a possibility. And so then we would have to then look at what are our numbers looking like and then meet and, sort of shift gears.
Trying to see how many would jump, how many we'd have to jump in that grade. Currently there's 90
94,
Mhm.
and then,
You mean to warrant for classrooms?
yeah.
Well, wouldn't that depend on like what you wanted the class sizes to be? Or I guess. if
We
you go
should
above
we should
32.
really, so like 32 is where we should really try to be no higher than, but there was like +2, so you could get to highest 34. I mean, that's not ideal. I think as close to 30 as possible is still a lot, but it's better.
It seems like if there were 10 extra kids, that to make, it would be like, every class size was like 26. And if right now we're at 94, 26 would be 104, right? So it'd be 10 more kids enrolling would put us kind of at that 26 mark of wanting 4 classrooms at that size. Okay.
Yes, 26 times 4.
When you're talking about the restructuring of 4 to 3 and talking with your team, is there, do we have other schools as a reference of how they've adjusted schedules in?
We've done that here. Like, yeah, we've done that at Peirce where we've had 3. When I first got here, we had 3 at most of middle school, and then 4 in some grade levels. In previous schools I've been in, there's been 3. And so like, there's different ways to do that. I think it's really talking to the teachers. I haven't even shared this directly with teachers yet. I met with my PPC the other day and gave this preview. My hope was to have recorded something yesterday to email out before today, but I didn't have a chance to finish that yet. But so like, teachers don't know, and really like hearing from them on like what they think the best program model would be is really important to me.
But it's not like reinventing it. It's like there's a handful of things and then we can find the right fit.
You had a question?
No, I'm good. I guess I do have a question. So we went from 1 case manager to 2 case managers, and even then, we know that that's almost not sufficient.
Oh no, 2 is
Or is
doable.
it? Okay.
Two is fine.
Okay.
2 works. 2 works actually really well. And if we had both full-time year-round, we could potentially like even have a little bit of time for intervention.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that like 2 is working really well.
Got it.
Is there potential for a crossover between restorative practices coach and case managers? Like where they could fulfill that role?
There is I don't know that, I would have to figure out like where, like if we are going to combine roles, where that should happen.
Okay.
I mean, it could be in case management, it could be in other places. I guess that's where, like, I need to really do some thinking in terms of like.
Because it would need to be somebody that's not like a classroom teacher.
You're going to, for the IB coordinator, that has to be a teacher or a teaching position now? Like it can't be
It's
an
a teaching
administrator.
position.
But then that's a full-time job, right? So that it can't be a classroom teacher doing that job at the same time.
Correct.
What were you were saying Mr. Lee is in, what was his other one?
So Mr. Lee is our MYP coordinator and assistant principal that supports 5th through 8th grades. And that model is working really well right now.
And you're saying that this could potentially change so that it couldn't be MYP?
That's what I am trying to make sense of,
Okay.
like how much,
That's what it looks like it's saying, is like it can't be combined with another role or something. Is that what you were saying? I was trying to.
The MYP coordinator, there's a memorandum of understanding that they want us to sign that says that that person is committed to the MYP duties and not administrative duties.
So one at the exclusion of the other.
Is that a hard, fast rule? Is it something
That's
that
what
can
I've
be-
been fighting with. Maybe fighting is not the right word, but that's been something I've been really trying to push. And I'm not, I've been told no many, many times.
Did they give a rationale? Because it seems so
No.
advantageous to have it the way it is.
Right.
budgetarily.
What's the reason, I guess, is
Yeah.
what I'm trying. Because we'd have to find somebody to fill that position, which doesn't free up money to hire where we're missing.
You're asking very good questions.
Right, and if there's a memorandum that's you're obligated to sign, like clearly something preceded that to
Right.
instigate. Is that,
It's a citywide, so the city, so what I do know is that the district wants to make sure that all programs are of high quality. Peirce is an IB demonstration site for the primary years and middle years program. We have been acknowledged by the district as having a high quality program, which is not the case in all IB schools. So the district is taking a district-wide approach to ensuring high-quality program by making sure that there are full-time released coordinators and principals that support the IB program, and that these coordinators, which in a lot of schools have been pulled from their duties of MIP coordinating to do other things, and their title has not been preserved, and then the program suffers. So that is a district-wide thing that they are trying to address. Peirce is very unique in that we are working at high levels and we've been doing the work, but we are being asked to follow a district model, even though the model we've been following has worked for us. And so that's where, like they want a district-wide approach, which I understand. It just is not so clean for us.
and it doesn't leave room for nuance of
Right.
if ours isn't falling within the pattern.
So if it's going to be-
full district.
Yeah, if it's going to be mandated, can they be the ones supporting it as opposed to it being at the expense, at the school's expense?
But they're supporting it by giving us a coordinating, a position. And so we've always received positions from the IB department, but they are now becoming very, they're providing more oversight in how those positions are being used. And so we've had an assistant principal as MYP coordinator for 7.5 of the 9 years that I've been here.
I have a question about Friends of Peirce. I know historically, and you can correct me if I'm mischaracterizing this, but I think you've been reluctant to hire teachers with Friends of Peirce funds, and I'm wondering if this changes your between this and the amount of money coming into Friends of, if that changes your thoughts on.
So the allocations from Friends of Peirce have not been like Lori is saying, don't hire staff. That's been the Friends of Peirce model, is to not go towards positions and to go towards programs that would impact all students.
Okay.
And so I think that would be a conversation like, does Friends of Peirce want, and I'm only looking at you because you're here now, so part of, you're president of the board, but like, is that a direction that FOP wants to move in shifting like their approach? I don't know, but
So
like
it's
at
not
this
something
point,
you're against.
I'm not against it. I think the part that becomes very tricky is that then you are like fundraising for specific people, which becomes very sensitive. So if we're gonna make that approach, I would rather say, let's fundraise $100,000 for part-time staff, because then that's a very broad thing, but it also frees up money for like a staffing position. And then we know that that's something that benefits all kids, because we all need to have like coaches that are working with children, and then it's not person specific. I'd say like once you're saying like I am funding like teacher A, that becomes very messy.
Yeah.
And at a previous school that Henry attended, I sat through an LSC meeting where there was a pretty strong battle over that very thing. The school was slated to lose a teacher who'd just been hired that year to teach drama. And the LSC voted on whether to, to fund that position through the Friends Up group. And the principal was adamantly against it, and his rationale was that we then set the precedent for the district to say, they've got it. But the LSC, the vote supported that the decision to cut that person. There was only one dissenter.
Does Lake have,
think
Lake
he has
has
his
his
hand up.
hand raised?
Yeah. All right. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Lori. I know it seems to me like this gets more complicated every year,
It's
right?
always something different.
So
Always something different.
we'll be on the lookout and, looking forward for, to the upcoming meeting. But if there's anything else in the meantime, it's just bodies and dollars, right? Like it's just trying to figure out where to put it, where it works the best. So.
Thank you, Lake.
Thank you.
Bye, Lake.
All right. Next on the agenda, we had, before I move on, is there anything that you wanted to bring up, like as part of the principal's report, or are we good moving forward?
No, I think I'm okay.
Okay. We also had like the next section on budget. So I don't know if you wanted to.
No, I guess just to, we had not had the March internal accounts yet to be able to share with the council, but we have the February that I emailed last night. And so if folks are not ready to vote on that, I'll make the motion, then we can decide if we want to vote or put it at the next meeting because of the delay in sending it out. But I will make a motion to approve internal accounts for February 2024.
Any discussion? It's pretty straightforward. All in favor? That's fine. Thank you. Transfer of funds, that's so that there are none. All right. Next item is public participation. So we do have a sign-up sheet here. We'll have another opportunity later on the agenda. I think I saw only Ashley for now.
So I have two things I want to bring up. One, I feel like was a topic that was discussed a lot in the beginning of the year, and as we approach the end of the year, I kind of want to bring it back to the forefront, and that's school supplies. On the school supply list that were brought up for the beginning of the year, I'll just share, like, for my family, I have 3 children at Peirce. We were asked to bring in 19 tubes of Clorox wipes. I just feel like a lot of the supplies were really excessive, especially Clorox wipes, or something that's supposed to be supplied by the district. I actually think about the math, there were 10 required for my middle schooler alone. I don't even know where 1,000 tubes of Clorox wipes could be stored in the building. But that perhaps when we make these lists, as teachers are making these lists in May before they leave for the summer, that maybe there's a different way that we can approach this. We can approach this from keeping in mind that many of our families have multiple children. And so if we're asking for, 6 here and 7 there, that all really adds up for families. And then also, I know that there was talk about this in the fall as well, that I get a lot of these supplies back completely in use, which is really discouraging, especially when you're going out and you're trying to find the last pink folder somewhere. So that as these things happen, and I know there's a lot going on with the budget and everything else, but as teachers are making this list, what can we do to make this process easier on our families? And secondly, the other reason I'm here, and I know that the LSC can probably do absolutely nothing about this, but I do want to voice my opinion about it. We've had a lot of issues with school lunches and school breakfasts. My kids are reporting that there are no breakfasts in the morning, that they're running out, and the kids get here fairly early. And then second, our other biggest issue is that I have a child who's a vegetarian, and there are frequently no vegetarian meals offered. She is told that there are none left. She's been told that she can pick the meat off things. I know that frequently the meals do not match what's online, and I understand that there are supply issues and things of that nature, but there are many days where my 3 kids are receiving 3 different lunches. So it really makes it difficult to plan. I now have one child that refuses to even give school lunch a chance again because she's starving because there's nothing for her to eat, because she's not. It's crazy to me that we would ask a child to pull meat out of something. But I don't know what to do about the situation. I know that we've had issues with school lunches and breakfasts before, and then things get a little bit better, and then they kind of trail off again. So I'm just wondering, I just want to put that out there. That's it. That's all I have.
I appreciate the comment about school supplies. Last year, so much came home unused, and it wasn't a case of my child just choosing to not use things. There were multiple folders. This year, the binder has gone unused. And I wonder if there's a way that parents could maybe, if teachers feel like they need support in auditing their lists to make sure they're really updated and that those supplies, did we use this last year? Let's strike that from the list. That's time consuming. So maybe parents can help with that, or, to just streamline it.
Is the list coming from the district, or is it coming from the?
It's the teachers. And Kim meets with the teachers every year to review it, adjust. We've even messaged to teachers that they really need to be conscious of, we've shared this message with them, even middle of the year. That message was shared with the teachers, and even telling teachers collect all the supplies and use them as communal. A lot of it doesn't even need to be student specific, just bring it in as communal supplies, because sometimes kids have stuff in their locker, they don't bring it into the classroom, the teacher's then asking for materials, not realizing the kid has it in the locker. And so I think if we move towards communal supplies, it would really shift some of what you're experiencing, because we would know then that it is being used and it's not just hiding in a backpack. But then also the district does provide wipes. There's certain things that the district does provide. Teachers some things that are very specific. And so then they are putting those things as optional. Nothing is ever mandatory to bring in. And so I think we can probably be better about messaging that. The teachers never end up with 1,000 boxes of Clorox wipes, right? They'll have a group of families that will send the materials in and then they will use what comes in, but it's never been that like every kid brings like that amount, which could be why the teachers just leave it on, is because they know that if they leave it on everybody's, then they're gonna get some, and it'll give them like what they need. But I think like the messaging of optional and that these are like teacher specific requests, not that the district won't provide.
And it also helps, like, if, I noticed, especially like in the pre-K kind of kinder years, the teachers would maybe send a message out through room reps. Can you ask for more Kleenex or more hand sanitizer or whatever? And I do feel like when a teacher voices a need to a class, it's like very, compelling to be like, okay, we got this. We'll make sure you have what you want. Whereas I think people are kind of taking like the liberty of being like, well, I know like people are going to bring in 6 rolls and I don't need to do that because that feels excessive at the beginning of the year.
Or is the rubber cement really going to get used?
Yeah.
That's my question every day.
I've never seen rubber cement. Maybe in the art classes, but I never
Or
seen
those
those.
big erasers.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I wonder too, is there a mechanism, I feel like I should know this, to give feedback to the district about, because they oversee the school lunch and they determine the menus and the supply.
Oh, they have that feedback, and they just sent a survey to the whole district, right? They've been surveying families and students and staff members.
Okay.
And so they are working to overhaul it. Some of the things that we're experiencing here are staffing specific. And I know Lauren was trying to get somebody on the call to express the same things that you're saying. The number one topic that came up in our LSC student forum today, number 1 and 2 were lunches and bathroom cleanliness. And that is every single year.
Same company.
Every single year. And so like, that message is heard, that message is communicated. It's
I'm gonna start timing us because when we start going off the rails on the agenda. So
Thank you.
we probably
Thank you.
like another minute on this and then.
That's always the most uncomfortable role.
I think just to add one more thing to that, Nicole, sorry. Yeah, this is from February 2024, that CPS proposes ending their Aramark cleaning contract, so.
But they're trying to revamp food service also.
I know they made a lot of efforts for this year to do that, so.
Thank you. So what I'm doing right now is I'm looking at the actual Peirce LSC inbox to see if folks have questions. There was one request, or there was a question asking if. So the question went, may my friend and I attend tonight's or next LSC meeting on May 16th? We're both Peirce parents. So I responded that absolutely, the more the merrier. We don't want to just see Chad here every time. But I'm kidding. You know I'm kidding.
These are public meetings.
But yeah, so yes, absolutely. But so I think we want to, I don't know. I'm not sure if we want to make sure we emphasize that these are public meetings, right? Because the way I read this is, it's sort of closed. So perhaps we'll put together a response and say, these are all open meetings and they can be found on the calendar. Thanks, Lauren, for making that available as well.
Yeah, and that just for the record includes the back meetings, the racial equity committee meetings, and I would say, not to speak for all the other parent groups, but those meetings are open and announced for everyone to attend.
Yeah.
So just in case that person's listening, we want people to attend.
All right, there's another, and perhaps I'll do as quickly as I can. There was another email that came through.
And you could just email the emails too. I don't know if we need to read them, right? Is that?
Yeah, that's fine. This one I felt like it was a pretty important message to communicate. So I'll go quickly. Please read at the March LSC meeting. So that actually came, before our meeting. My suggestion would be that the LSC take a hard look at the reasons teachers are leaving Peirce by the droves. The past 9 years have been difficult for all educators. However, Peirce teachers have been plagued by an unsupportive administration, one that does not strive to build a culture of positivity and supportive teamwork, but rather teachers feel isolated. Their interactions with administration create only tension and conflict because of fear of retribution. There is documented evidence that teacher turnover is costly. With constant turnover, it's difficult to institute change or create consistent routine for students, especially with special needs. Often the reliance on subs that have less experience can result in committed and invested teachers' voices to be lost. In a 2020 study published by the American Educational Research Association, the Learning Policy Institute states, high teacher turnover yielded a drop in academic performance, especially in science and math. There have been roughly 55 teachers that have left during Principal Zani's tenure. 28 left because of lack of support and leadership. 8, I don't know where those numbers are coming from, but this is what's said in the email. 8 of these teachers have resigned, took a leave of absence, or left the profession completely during the 2023-2024 year. Please take time to talk and listen to the teachers at Peirce before more teachers decide that this is not a school that they want to be a part of. Perhaps the LSC could include a goal in Ms. Zami's annual review to address and improve teacher turnover. And there's another message about LSC elections. I live in the Peirce attendance area and have a child enrolled to begin kindergarten at Peirce in the fall. How have I not received one single communication about LSC elections until 5 minutes ago, which is yesterday, when I found out about it from an article in Block Club. At this point, I can't even make it to the school before the polls close, let alone research what candidate to vote for. This failure to communicate with neighborhood residents is inexcusable. And that concludes the email correspondence that we have received. I did have a question about
We're way over time for public participation.
All right.
So
well, let's move on. I'll ask her on the next
we have a
one.
lot to vote on in new business. So I just want to make sure we get
That's
to it before
fair.
people start
I think we
having
can
to
kind of
leave.
go.
I think just one thing, it's important to say this, teachers leave for various reasons. They leave the profession for various reasons. And I think to imply causation directed at a principal is you can't know unless you do an empirical study why these teachers left Peirce. I looked at the numbers last year because I was hearing a lot of noise about this issue. And I looked at old principal reports going way back as far as I could. And the numbers weren't higher last year, for example, than they had been. I was looking at the reasons that you listed on old principal reports. Quite a few teachers leave because they're leaving teaching. And to say that that is Lori Zami's fault is a reach. So I feel very strongly about this because we know nationwide teachers are leaving in droves, and that can be due, as research shows, to many things. So I get fired up about this because there is no way to prove that it's because of Lori. So that's all I have to say. I'm done.
Thank you. The next section here, community group reports. Make it short, please.
I'll be fast, thank you. Rather than send one in like I was asked to, I decided to show up and read it. First, I just want to give a sincere thank you to the community at Peirce. for the many hands that have come in to help the family of Jaden Perkins, the caregivers here, the teachers, staff, and the kids. This is something no kid or no family should ever have to deal with at school. But we saw a tremendous support from everybody. So I just want to say thank you and recognize the community for that. As far as Friends of Peirce, we are having coffee and community tomorrow at understudy. And we've also started having it at the pre-K branch at Lost Hours. We had our first one last month, and it was well attended. We had about 23 parents there. And we also had parents who had kids at the branch, but also at the campus, so they could talk about what the campus was like. So it was nice to have that. Our next Kids Night Out is tomorrow. Hannah Johnson is so excited to be working with kids tomorrow on the Kids Night Out. I do want to point out an activity that's not Friends of Peirce, but it's actually the Bilingual Advisory Committee. They're doing Los Dia de los Niños de Piñatas for that. The filling of the piñatas is happening April 22nd in the field house at 8:15 in the morning. So if you can come and help fill the piñatas with candy, that would be awesome. And Panther Ball is moving to the 31st of May. We are modifying our agenda and our focus a bit to pay tribute to Jaden. We've actually invited the Gus Giordano dancers to come and perform, and his mom's invited as well. She's to come, and so we're looking at what we can do with pricing. We've tried to bring pricing down, folks. Tickets are our at cost ticket is $100 for the venue that we got. Our big focus is raising as much money as we can to supplant, Title I funds that have gone because of our population shift, demographic shift. But also, we've talked to Jaden's family about possibly helping the school with things like improvements in this space in his honor. So I am on my way out at Friends of Peirce. So we need people to step up and be on the board. We're taking nominations. We're going to review nominations at the May meeting. Just so if you have anybody who would like to be on the Friends of Peirce board, please have them reach out to me, chad@friendsofpeirce.org. We're going to be asking each parent group to publicize that as well. We're a little behind because of the last month. And then Midsummer Fest. We do a beer tent there, but we have another activity happening that I'm very excited about. It's collaborative fundraising. We're going to have a dunk tank, and we've had some administration agree to be dunked, and possibly some staff. But the great thing about this dunk tank is there's going to be over 3 days. We want to have one day that's Peirce, one day that's Swift. We asked Gowdy, but they declined because they are indisposed, as I understood it. So we're trying to find another school. So I'm thinking maybe Haight or McCutcheon, possibly. We want to do collaborative fundraising where each school gets a third of whatever's raised for that. That's it for the update. Any questions?
The coffee, I thought I saw a notice that the coffee was at Lost Hours, but are you saying it's at both tomorrow?
So no, tomorrow is the 12th is at understudy. The 19th is Lost Hours.
Okay, that must be what I saw.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
ESO.
Hey, I'm filling in for Michelle. So just to talk about some past stuff that has happened since the last. So we had the parent mixer, which was on March 8th, which was at the Raven Room, and it was apparently a good time. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, but karaoke, everybody. It was, yeah, everybody said they had a really good time.
There's confirmation in the audience.
Yeah. We helped to lead with the career day breakfast / lunch, and it sounded like it was a good success. The parent teacher conference luncheon was just yesterday, where we just, provide the food. and that had a line apparently out the door 5 minutes before, like before 1. So that is also a good sign that the teachers are looking forward to it. And then for coming up in May, so Fiesta de Art is moving. So it was supposed to be May 2nd, and it will be moving to the end of May. Ms. Zapata has hopefully confirmed May 29th.
Yeah, the date was fine.
Okay.
She asked some other things that I need to respond to.
Okay, so May 29th is officially confirmed. You've heard it here first. And it's going to be 4 to 6:30 here at the school. And then Teacher Appreciation Week is the first full week of May. And another thing that is also happening the first week of May that Ashley was nice enough to remind me of is the president of PSO, which like FOP, is a 2-year term. So Michelle will be stepping down, and a new person will be needing to be replacing her. And so there will be a vote if there is a contested. Just everybody else is volunteer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, just president. So just the president is voted on. And so if it is a contested position, then we will have a vote. If there's only one person, then obviously we won't have a vote. But that would happen the first meeting in May. And the only stipulation that's in our bylaws is that it's somebody who's actively involved in PSO. That's it. Oh, we do have a meeting tomorrow, unfortunately, at the same time as coffee. But it's just a working meeting where we're discussing Appreciation Week, Fiesta, which we are, and with Fiesta, we are partnering with the arts team. We don't plan it, I should mention that. And discussing the yard sale and the sports banquet, because we also partner with the teams for the sports banquet. Sorry, that was very long. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
we asked-
1 minute and 40 seconds left.
Okay, sorry.
We asked our racial equity parent group as well, and they sent a report. We'll read it real quick. I mean, I don't know if it's not very long, but they have a series of events coming up. The next one is Thursday, April 18th, from 8 to 9:30. I believe it's going to be an online discussion, conversation with Peirce parents and caregivers, discussing important topics such as supporting survivors of domestic and gender-based violence, seeking alternatives to incarceration, and driving meaningful systemic change.
What time is that?
8 to 9:30 on April 18th. And during that meeting, we'll be joined by members of the community who work to disrupt gender-based violence, including fellow Peirce parents and subject experts.
Was that meant to be PM or is that AM?
PM, 8 to
Okay.
9:30 p.m.
Like-
April 18th. All right. Community reports, we didn't receive anything from
No.
that, right? Equity committee?
We canceled our April meeting and might have recent events.
Principal evaluation, we were just talking about that. That's coming up due quickly, so we need to get together real fast to first send out the survey, and we may have to have an additional meeting to discuss the results so that we can enter them in the appropriate database.
I just want to give a BAC update because I had included this in my principal's report from Mr. Lerner. It was that a representative from Central Romero came to the most recent BAC meeting to describe services offered by the organization, including after-school programs and summer programming for kids, as well as services for adults.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. I had here old business. Again, these are standing ones. I don't think we have one more meeting. I think we're good there. All right, so now, fun time. You ready? 30 minutes. The first item here, vote on the revision to the CIWP Priority 1 goals.
Yes. And so as I had shared at the February meeting, as we were doing the MOI data review, we realized that the metric that we had included was not accurate for the STAR reading and STAR math for our English language learners. And so I had included in the March principals report the recommended revisions. And so I will read that I will make a motion to approve revisions to CIWP Priority 1 for our goals in increasing percentage of students moving up or staying at above benchmark on STAR reading among English language learners, so that the baseline for last school year is 16%, and then a 5% increase goal in growth for school years 24, 25, and 26, with those being 21%, 26%, 31%. And then for STAR math, same, increasing the percentage of students meeting, moving up or staying at or above benchmark on STAR math, for the baseline being 20%, with goals school year 24, 25%, school year 24, 25%, school year 25, 30%, and school year 26, 35%. So I just made my motion. Second.
Any discussion? We talked about that at length last time. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. The motion passes. The next item was brought up a couple of times, and so we label it student and teacher support, crisis team, etc. I think the background is, in light of recent events here that affected our school directly, a lot of the parents have come forward in terms of having to deal with, the aftermath. And the question was, can we get a little bit more visibility into if you could share what's being done, if there's something that's needed or something like that.
So March 13th, I learned of the passing of Jaden early in the morning, and contacted the crisis team and safety and security right away. And they dispatched their team to our school and were able to work with myself and my leadership team on creating a plan to first notify staff and then send a public communication to the broader community. There was stuff being released in, the media before school got out, and our goal was that students would not hear any of this information during the day, and it did not become an issue among students during the day. And we had to really move quickly in addressing staff, because I had staff members at the grade level that he is a student at, hearing things and getting really concerned. And so we worked with the crisis team to offer employee assistance and communication that same morning, and told all people that were direct teachers of Jaden directly, and then had to relieve. Some people were not in a position to continue working, and so we let them leave and had staff members cover their classrooms. And then we worked with the district's Office of Social Emotional Learning and the crisis response team to have a pretty good sized staff on site the following day, and arranged for immediate responses in the 6th grade classrooms, but then also had shared protocols for all teachers on how they can talk with students about it. At that point, there was a lot of information that was unknown and a lot of incorrect information that was being put out in the media. And so our stance was that there's a lot that we don't know, but we know that we have the loss of life. We don't know the details of the loss of life, and try to allow space for students to share their feelings. Some kids, were for many days not in a position to come to school. Our behavioral health, we had to work at identifying which students were more directly impacted. to do individual follow-up with some students, put plans in place, either small group or individual, between the district's resources and school resources. And we are still continuing, like this will be something that will be here for a long period of time. It's not something that's going to go away quickly, especially as I've talked to other principals and heard how they've managed like similar situations in their schools. I'm learning a lot about like how we need to continue to like memorialize, center Jaden, and to continue to listen to what the needs of students are. And so students had self-organized a vigil and communicated that for the next day, which was amazing. Students had self-organized developing a memorial, and students entered the building and placed items at a like growing memorial that was just absolutely beautiful. And we just let things be. We just knew like let students do what they needed to do. And so we were, staff were in the hallways wondering, do we interrupt this? Do we let it be? And we just let it be. And then, eventually like all students ended up in their classrooms and we were able to hold space for them. Individual groups are continuing. Willow House had offered free on-site grief counseling. They're a vendor, and also there's a no-cost agreement that was in place. So they came in, and there was a long list of students that had met in grief spaces throughout the day. One day this week, I can't remember which one it was. But then the behavioral health team is continuing to follow up on students that we know that need intentional one-on-one check-ins. We need to move at some point to a space where we have like a room open every day, like for a period of time that students can just self-select to go into. We haven't been able to move in that direction yet, but we would like to make that space for students at some point. And then students had requested to do an internal memorial separate from like the physical memorial. They wanted to speak about Jaden, and so we shifted our approach to our learning celebrations and allowed students to self-organize that oral contribution in 6th through 8th grade. So it was like 1:30 till 3 o'clock. Students were able, they like listed who all was gonna speak. They had some songs that were sung. We did I led like a whole MYP circle, which was similar to what we had experienced from the healing circle. The healing circle was done with all staff through a flex day. And it was just a really beautiful time. And then we had spring break. Students have been talking in student council about other ways, and these are actually like similar things that have been in conversation with Chad and like Friends of Peirce. Like similar ideas are being floated. They include wanting to have like this space remodeled, which has been a funding priority, but then also dedicated to Jaden, because this is our gym, but also performance space. Wanting to have a mural dedicated to Jaden, and wanting to have a flower garden dedicated to Jaden. So those are 3 things that are ways that students are producing that they'd like to continue memorials, which are in alignment with what I'm hearing from Chad as well. And I'm sure that there's lots of other things that people are thinking. And then I know that there's like some community interest in supporting that healing process in other ways beyond the walls of Peirce. I will say that I was really surprised at the level of support that we received. Having never been through a crisis like that, I was really happy to have the support from the district. And they were extremely responsive and like appeared so fast. I couldn't like process everything that was happening. I'm sure that I've missed, we had employee assistants on site, which is where folks could self-select to go in and engage in, sort of like one-on-one counseling if they chose to. And so that was also really nice to have at the school. I don't know if there were like other specific questions that I may or may not be able to answer. We've also been working very closely with the family. So we're making a lot of progress right now in support for the family.
I have a question based on just a couple of conversations I had with a couple of different parents who were asking for, I guess, more understanding of what crisis team entails. When CPS comes, like, who are they? How many? And how do they determine how long to be here and when to go? Like, how do they make those?
Yeah, so they're not a long-term like group so they're employees of the district. Unfortunately, they said that like on a daily basis, there is a death in the district. So it's frequent that crisis is needing to be deployed, and they have multiple crisis teams that are like regionally based. So they determine it based on several things. One being the size of the school. What we sort of are in conversation with them with what we think will be a good next step, knowing our students, our community, our staff. I was also talking directly with the 6th grade team the day prior, and we had met that evening. So shared the information. They left, had like a virtual meeting at 7 p.m. to talk through like how the day would go the next day. So seeking that feedback from teachers, our counselors and our like leadership team, sort of like hearing from teachers throughout the building what's happening and what are like things that maybe we didn't think of that we need to then address. And so there's like district staff members that maybe clinical social workers, certified counselors, like I'm not sure their exact job titles, but they are deployed and there's generally a lead with a team of people. The team of people can vary in size. And then
About how many were here?
Here, there was, I can't remember. There was quite a few. The first
10?
around that number. It changed throughout the day, and it changed by day. So like some people didn't start at the school, but then came into the school and then left. There may have even been more than 10. Because there was like different people from, like you have like the direct crisis team, but then you have Office of Social Emotional Learning. There were people from like different parts of Office of Social Emotional Learning that had come in. Yeah, around 10 or so, yes, I guess that would make sense. And then so like each day the plan looked different based on how things were going. And then we sort of identify when we think it's good to like scale back. So there's intensive support at the beginning, and if we feel like we're in a good place for healing at that point, then that scale back starts to happen. But they've been checking in with me on a weekly basis just to see how are things going and is there anything else that we need to think about. So they're in constant check-in mode with us.
Can you say a little bit more about how you determine when they need to scale back? Like what do you base that on?
You can tell based on what you're hearing from your staff and what you're hearing from your students and your counselors. Like they're able to say like, we're getting nobody coming in to this space. Like we had crisis rooms open and then we said, okay, nobody visited like this room today, but 3 visited this room. Like we can close this room. We're going to keep this one open. We no longer need district support. We can do it internally. Different times of the year. So we asked for additional presence the day that we did our internal memorial during the student memorial that Friday before spring break. We asked for additional people to come in because we weren't sure what the response would be. They were going to send more people in around the time of the funeral, but because it happened during spring break, they didn't because we weren't here. And so basically, if we're feeling like there's going to be something that happens that may trigger a large response, we then reach out to them and then they'll deploy their team again.
Can I ask one more question? I think a parent communicated this, and we were on the same email thread about concerns about younger kids kind of, I'm trying to be careful with my words because it's a sensitive topic, but talking a lot about the manner in which Jaden died. And the concern was, how do we shift that conversation wherever it's happening among children to talk about how he lived? And I know that's a super big topic, tall order, but have you worked with the district at all on that note?
Yeah, so that's where like teachers have to assess the information that's coming to them. How close are students to the situation? Some may not have as much context and some may have more. And so wanting to focus on like this is not about the details because none of us still know the exact details. Especially given that the media put so much misinformation out there. So focusing on not like the details of it, but that there was loss of life. And how does it feel for us when we have experienced loss of life? Like in talking about how different people grieve. And so reactions that we might see from our friends. So it's been hard to like coin things very broadly because it really is situation specific based on the content that is being shared. How we celebrate the life is in like these memorials and in those discussions. So some teachers have asked students to share, what are things that you really loved about Jaden, how was Jaden a friend to you? That's harder for a kid who has not had that personal relationship. Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of the support, I think, like you said, we saw various schools also sort of rally behind us, right? So we got support from SEN, they came in, they had a breakfast for the teachers. The Swift folks were here as well, a couple of days, or at least one. It's been really heartwarming to get that.
Yeah. And with that, Matthew, I wanted to say but did not. But like the support that we received from the community really was amazing. I mean, just people bringing lunch for staff and having like coffee and donuts available in the morning. I know that personally that was really great for me because it's hard to eat. And so like just knowing that there was like something that I could like put into my body very quickly. That was just really nice for people. As you're trying to just like manage like all these other things. So that was just such a beautiful community like support system that really was greatly appreciated.
Great. Thank you. I put another item there, student, teacher, and community safety in light of recent incidents. We talked about Bryn Mawr and Broadway, it's sort of like almost related with the crossing guard. There's also, I think we had a couple of parents bringing up the fact that the traffic situation between Bryn Mawr between Glenwood and Clark is always sort of challenging. I think at some point, if I understand correctly, we were not allowed, we do block the east part, so the Glenwood side up until 8:10 or so. But a lot of concerns about what's happening, with folks making U-turns or making taking a left turn onto Clark or onto Bryn Mawr. Just wanted to kind of bring that up and see if there's anything, maybe we can work with, maybe with the, I don't know, the Alderman office or
was coming up
somebody.
at the same time that we were managing the grief, the passing of Jaden.
That's right.
And so there's probably follow-up that has not happened. I guess, this was coming, you sort of are playing two roles here, but you're a parent here. I guess I don't know what like the exact next steps are right now, but I know what I had initially asked years ago when we closed Bryn Mawr, it was that we could not close Bryn Mawr East because of Lakeshore Drive. If that's something that could change, like we can explore that, but then you still have Bryn Mawr West. And so then what's worse? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because at least Bryn Mawr East, like kids are being dropped on the side of the street that the school is on.
That's right.
Which was a concern for us as well, because even if you're doing Bryn Mawr West, you still might have a car come through. Like there are still like sometimes cars that even go around. And with the alley not being fully blocked, there does still present the potential for people to go another way. And so if you did Bryn Mawr East closed, then you still run maybe some chance of a kid running across the street. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard from somebody who lives across the street right here, where, so the concern was that people then, you were talking about the alley, they use the alley that's directly parallel to Bryn Mawr on the north side, and, that's
Now that becomes a problem too,
It's like,
because
can we
people
put-
say, like,
Didn't you say, can we put something in the newsletter and then that never?
Yeah, because Gina actually brought up one of our meetings, the alley situation just east of the building, how cars are going, they're going east and then they're U-turning at the alley.
And
Yeah.
then also this alley,
That
like
he's talking
Matthew
about,
was
yeah.
saying, I've seen droves of families walking through there. And then I come Monday through Friday because I drop off my son. This is my path home because I live on Glenwood. So I'm still seeing parents either somehow going west on Bryn or they may be coming east, making that U-turn, dropping their kids off, letting them run across the street with the traffic coming east still. I noticed a lot of parents not pulling to the curb. They are sticking out, which is then stopping the flow of traffic from going east, because you can't get past. It works sometimes wonderfully, most times it doesn't. So, yes, are there other ways that I could go around to get to my house? Yes, but that was one of the reasons why I wanted to see if this is still a problem and let you guys know that it is a problem this far. I think there was information that was put out consistently for a while and it got really good. And traffic was flowing very well, but not so much anymore. And then I think what makes it worse is there's a lot of road construction around here, so people are looking for alternatives to just get around this area of the neighborhood itself. A lot of streets are blocked, or there's work trucks, or there's comments.
I remember at one point, Alderperson's newsletter actually was sharing, and this is like when we first started it, like sharing about like safety in the community around schools and like I think that could be helpful because sometimes these are also people not within our community. Some people won't even see it in the newsletter. So like there's like different challenges, like we can communicate it. Is it going to like completely change people's behaviors? Not necessarily, but it might. The hard part is we don't have like enough staff to really be able to monitor like all of these moving pieces. And so like that's where it's sort of like things are like really difficult in terms of like how to like approach this from like a larger scale. It is still better than when both directions are open, because then you couldn't even move because of so many different reasons.
They're open, correct me if I'm wrong, but both directions are open at dismissal time, right?
Correct.
That's
Which is
the nightmare.
awful. It's awful.
Yeah, there was a semi, like a food
Yes.
truck out there when the ambulance and, I had to call 911 because nobody could move
Yeah.
for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, dismissal is not fun.
so along those lines, I'm trying to go quickly, but it's one day a year, right, when we have the field trip to Springfield and starting at 5:00, where the buses park and you have folks that want to kind of quickly go west, so click in and then meet eastbound traffic at the same time. And then it happened also at drop-offs, at 9:30 at night. I was wondering if there was a way to, perhaps that night to sort of have somebody present with us. I mean, the parents ended up like doing that, right? Like we just kind of walked around with the barrier to kind of prevent that from happening because people were trying to force their way east as the trucks, as the buses were parking. The buses couldn't even park because there was so much going on and trying to weave through it. So yeah, just trying to bring that up too.
I'm just gonna chime in. I think there's a couple different kind of follow-up conversations that could happen out of this, in terms of like the one-way traffic and the U-turns. Like if that's the school community doing those U-turns, then maybe that's that's what my sense was. That's the school community. So maybe that's just like more in the school newsletter and maybe something funny, like, parents out in some like no U-turn sign or something, just to get the message out there. Maybe that could help. If it's, the wider community, of course, like we can put something in the Alder, newsletter. I also think there's conversations we could have around both intersections, like at the ends of Bryn Mawr, at Glenwood and at Clark, and like different traffic calming measures at both of those intersections. Like we've got a little bit of that at Gregory already. So, do we want to look at options for what we could do at those two intersections? So if you want to have that conversation, Principal.
They had
we can
emailed
have
something that I said I don't think would be a good idea.
Yeah,
There was one idea thrown out, and I was like, I don't know that that's gonna solve the problem.
I think it'd be like sitting down, like, with you in the Alder's office and like some parents, and we can look at.
I just
options.
honestly have not had the headspace to even be able to think
When the
about
time's
this.
right, yeah, when the time is right.
Can you add, Gregory is one way, obviously, but it is unsafe. And, this morning there was someone there was a big parking space and that person decided to go like this with their car so that the butt of the car was, on Gregory and nobody could move. And, people are like darting across with their kids and I think it's a concern too.
And I think maybe even engaging other schools and see what they do too. Because I think I'd mentioned in that email, I was talking to a friend of mine from, I think it was a group of us. I think she was specifically from Bell, but they do like a kiss and go statement or a kiss and go station. And so I don't know if we're kind of landlocked in different ways, but people are doing that regardless, like in the front of the building and also on Gregory, where they're just like dropping their kids and running because sometimes it's just, there's no other opportunities. But maybe there's ways that we can talk to other schools to see how they do this. And we're large scale, but
I think Bell and Coonley are around the same size as Peirce, and
they do
both block off one of those streets that goes around the school. And there are people out there saying, you can't park here. I think the guy who does it at Coonley is the security guard. And then they have a kiss and go on the other side of the building.
In the same way
I
that,
just have the timer going every 5 minutes, so that's 10 minutes on this one, just so you guys know.
in the same way that PSO does like trash pickup Monday morning, would it be possible for like PSO to do regular traffic, like bright shirts, to have some sort of like, even if it's a limited amount of reoccurrences,
You're voluntolding them?
voluntolding with parents out there and just be, it doesn't have to be a reprimanding, but just, we all know what it's like to be in the car and be like, okay, all right, I'll just adjust, where you're not thinking about the communal agreement at that time. So just having parents that could be in that space.
Are those signs too that
There are signs. Yeah, but
I haven't seen signs.
Oh,
though.
haven't
Like just like sort of lean out and say, slow, like watch for children. I know Coonley has those up. It sounds like we have a lot of ideas that we could contribute to our conversation.
And again, just that this is a public meeting, and so for posterity's sake, that this is an ongoing issue that is a concern to the Peirce community. So anybody watching has another reminder too.
All right. Next item is safe school CPS training requirements.
Yeah, I added this. Try and just talk through this quickly. I was, my first graders went to MSI last Friday, and you have to be a level 1 volunteer. I did the background check a few weeks ago, and then in asking the volunteer coordinating department, they said, great, you just have to finish the safe schools training, which upon examining with the modules time on there, it was about 9 hours of training, which in practice, it didn't actually equal that amount. and I know, like, just again, a lot of this is anecdotally, but within my own house, my wife didn't have to do it. It was implemented in October. But I wanted to voice it here. Also, another parent who I was speaking with about it. The main concern, obviously, it's a balance in ensuring that our kids are safe with the adults that volunteer their time. But then also that it's not prohibitively making it difficult for parents to volunteer and for teachers to be able to rely on parent volunteers. So I wasn't sure. I guess part of what I wanted to bring up too was I guess I was surprised a little bit being on the LSC for the last 2 years, and I don't remember it ever coming up. So I don't know how that process works, if it's something that we would have had to agree upon, but I didn't know about it, so I wouldn't know how other parents or other volunteers would have known about it. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I can share. So the district has been talking about doing this added layer of training for a while. And more recently, I don't know when it actually started. This is district, not school specific, but they then more recently implemented the Safe Schools training platform. So some people this year got level 1 certified without the training, and some had to do the training.
Mm-hmm.
And so moving forward, the district is expecting that all level 1 volunteers complete the training, because level 1 volunteers can be alone with children. And that is the number one safety, is making sure that the people with children understand all of these other things that come with being alone with children, which school staff members have to be made aware of. Some of the training people are saying are not as necessarily applicable to being alone with children, but some are like really important and really nice to know. And so I think that's sort of like one thing is, can that be communicated back to volunteers department? That like these trainings are like, we agree that these are all important for people that will be alone with children, but these maybe is not as necessary. But yeah.
And also, can they communicate it to parents? Because
They were supposed
there
to
was any
have, so I thought it was
communication.
communicated in the email that went to parents with the like registration process to be a volunteer.
I think so.
Yeah.
I asked in wider circles if there was communication, and
So we had
again,
some
I don't know
parent,
what it is.
yeah, we had a parent help facilitate some of the background check processes. If the district is going to, so if those rules, and I agree with you, it's necessary because of, by virtue of, spending that time alone with the, or potentially being in a situation where they're alone with the kids. That training, it would be helpful if we could have it set up at the schools, right? Like, maybe at regular intervals. The other thing also, sometimes depending on the availability, you take the training, you certify for 1 month, and then you have to do that for the entire year, the entire upcoming year, right? So perhaps maybe there's a 12-month rolling option that people can do. I know, by virtue of being the LSC, if any of us wants to be a level 1, we have to do 2 background checks. And so it's for different purposes. I understand, but maybe getting a little bit more support, I would say, from the district, if possible. I know that, like I said, some parents have volunteered to help with this process, so perhaps we can coordinate that to make sure that folks can take advantage of that opportunity. So I do want to be able to do that.
Well, and I'm also just concerned about, again, I understand it's a balance. I'm not saying it should just be easier for everyone all the time, but there is elements of already with the background check, not in my situation, but that's already a parent having to go somewhere during the day, take time off of work. With the safe schools training, that's requiring that whoever's involved has internet connection, has something that allows them to be able to access those materials, as well as commit extra time to do all of this. So just thinking about, will that be possible and feasible for some parents? Yes. Will it be like, it's not necessarily weeding out just dangerous individuals that could be interacting with our kids. It's eliminating a group of people that can't commit those types of things and or don't have those resources to be able to do it.
Thank you. Next item here, we talked, I put a note here, special budget. So thank you again for the highlights that you presented. Looking forward to getting the any additional information that you can share and details, so we can help. I appreciate the fact that they give you this information very late and ask you for finalization very early. So it's a little bit complicated there. Any other items? I put like a open. Okay, great. Public participation?
Because I have one thing I want to say, like, in addition to the safety with kids walking to and from school, I know that as I've moved on through the years, like, I was one of the parents that when my kids were younger, we were walking in, and now I've learned to drop them off several blocks away. But even, like, looking at the dynamics of who's actually walking their kids in, who's coming, actually having to park their car and then walk into school, it's primarily probably the younger grades. Like, maybe another way to look at it is also, if it's possible, shifting the day for those younger grades by 15 minutes. Even if it's at dismissal, they get out. I don't know if it can work by like pick up 2:45 for preschoolers and kindergartens, younger kids. And then the rest of the kids coming out at 3, maybe that might help the traffic situation. I don't know. The same you're looking at me like not possible.
We can't shift it.
Okay. No.
That's unfortunate.
Preschool already like dismisses like in kindergarten, like 5 minutes. Because of the amount of time it takes to just hand kids to parents. But like that would require us to alter the like bell schedule of the school, which would be like a huge, like that.
Okay.
And then that becomes an issue because not everybody would be on the same bell schedule.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, that's a good idea.
I like it. And I checked, I didn't see any other. Thank you for coming. Next item, announcements, comments. So a lighter note here, I pestered all of you for months about the Lunar Year Parade. We did have it, or we did participate, we got the help of PSO, between, letting us know where the stuff was, what to get ready for, where to get props. It was great to see sort of like the smiles in the community's faces, because there were Peirce kids and all that. It was great. We really enjoyed it. I'm hoping that, not just for this event, but other events that are community-based, that we can continue to get the community involved and continue that participation. We really had a fun time. So.
Good job. Take care, Gina.
Thank you. And then, we started with this, and I'd like to also finish with that. The past few weeks have been hard, right? It's one thing after the next, and I think everybody in one way, shape, or form has been impacted. But I think we've all said that here. We've all been very, very appreciative of the support that folks have given each other, right? That visual was incredible. Just even displays in here. So it's a testament to the school, right? And we don't like these things, we don't expect these things to happen, but it was great to see the community come together, and I hope we continue that, right? There's a lot of stuff, we'll call it, that's being put together, on the sidelines to support each other, whether it's the parents, the kids, and people doing other things, beyond even the walls here, right? At the even at the with the administration, or with the law, or things like that on a legislative front. So I was very pleased to see that. It's an unfortunate event, and hopefully, this helps us continue to grow together. But I'm always pleased and reminded of the reason why we chose this place, right? And then to finish up again, there was a little mention here on your principal report, and we mentioned it last time about Lori being a finalist for the Golden Apple Leadership in Excellence Award. I don't know when the results are or whatever, but as far as I'm concerned, you're a finalist. That's a win. And we're really, really appreciative of that, and we support you, and we're really proud of you.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
We had a nice site visit last week. They'll announce.
How did that go?
It was really nice. Yeah, we had focus groups of students, parents, staff members. And I invited people in that had known me for some people from 20 years ago that I helped encourage to move into teaching. Some people that I worked with when I was even a high school student, parents that were here when I was in my first year. So it was a nice range of people that have had an experience of working with me over a long period of time.
Wow. So this is part of the selection process?
Yeah.
Wow.
I chose to though that's part of the focus groups, but who you invite in is up to you.
Wow.
It's just important to me to bring in people that have that long.
Does someone still shadow you for the day? I know that
They
used to be part of
didn't
the-
shadow, no, they were meeting with people all day long. They were here from 7:30 until 3:30.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind giving an overview of what it actually, what the Golden Apple Award is? I meant to research.
Yeah,
Or-
so the Golden Apple Foundation has multiple tracks. One is the teacher development, retention, and recognition, and then they more within the last, I don't remember how many years, developed a leadership sort of recognition. And it's just a way of recognizing great teachers and educators and leaders that are in the field throughout different states. So they're in multiple states, and so this one is specific to the state of Illinois. And so there are 5 leaders in this case, across the state, that were finalists over a pool of 100, and it's they have an educator sort of network that you become part of. Even being for a leader as being a finalist, you're now part of the Golden Apple network. But it's one way of recognizing the strengths of.
So you had to be in the Golden Apple organization, or you
No.
were just nominated?
No, it's just
by them?
nominated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So people are nominated. I've been nominated almost every year, but I've never so you get nominated, and then there's a application that you then have to fill out, and then they review applications and then determine finalists.
Mhm.
But I have not filled out the application. It just the questions are always I don't know if this really means much to me. And to me, I'm whatever, I'm just gonna do my job. But the questions this time were more focused on equity and student voice, which are really important to me. And so I felt it was an opportunity for me to share, sort of to celebrate the work of myself, but the work of the school as well. I think it's important to have that recognition. And so I say, I'll just fill it out and see what happens.
Well, it happened.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's nice. It was sort of I was writing on highs and lows at the same time.
Yeah.
Switch gears quickly.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least, checking on norms. Thank you again, everyone, for your participation in making this meeting the best it can be. With that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you very much, and we'll see you at the next meeting.
Which is at 3:30, correct?
The budget meeting is 5:30, the regular meeting is 3:30.
The regular.
Yes.
Yeah. Date is that in May? I know I have it on my calendar. I should just look. The 11th?
It's May.
Yeah.
Does Nicole have to sign this?
Is it the 11th?
No, it's like one order.
Oh, I had the 16th.
Yes, of course.
16th, May 16th
There
at
it is.
3:30.
Yep, I had it. Also, we've got one more 5:30 meeting.
It's at 5:30,
Which one?
the budget.
Budget is 5:30.
It's 5:30, so it's an
And that's
open
an
meeting,
open meeting
Yes.
but then we'll have to go into closed session.
after.
So like, no, during. So we open the meeting,
So
and we
what time
say,
should we?
Oh,
or you can come before or after. So like, well, we'll start the meeting and say, welcome everyone, now we're going to closed session. And then we're going to closed session, no, that's right, it's closed session. And then we come back, and then we say, we're done.
All right, and this is when we decide what the official budget's
Oh,
going to be looking like.
I'm so sorry, I am completely off. No, I was thinking about something completely.